Hi, this is Andrew Dailey of MGI, and welcome to our session, Software Entitlements from License Management to Monetization. With the adoption of different business models from selling on-prem to subscriptions, usage, and consumption-based models, and even hybrids, the complexities of tracking what customers are using and then translating that into operations is growing. And for product managers, knowing what customers are using is really key to making important roadmap decisions. For finance managers, keeping track of usage is really essential to stopping revenue leakage. And for operations and support teams, usage and entitlement data really inform the provisioning and access decisions that are so important to customer satisfaction. So I'm delighted to be joined by Dave Dimillo, the Vice President of Thales, and we're going to discuss the business case for investing in entitlement management for software and services. We're going to frame the build versus buy decision, and then actually finish by discussing value selling and the experience that Dave and the Thales team had in communicating value to their customers and prospects. Dave is a very frequent industry speaker and a real expert on the topic. So I'm delighted, Dave, to have you join us here at the Monetize Forum. Welcome.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
So let's start with the business case for entitlement management. What's really the cost for ignoring this problem or ignoring entitlement and license management?
It's a good question. So this actually touches on value selling that we'll talk about in a few minutes, but most of our customers view entitlement management and licensing as a mechanism to drive revenue. Plain and simple, they're here to drive. That's why they come to us, is to help them drive revenue. And we have ways of breaking that down into elements that are actionable and measurable. But at the end of the day, really the case comes down to our customers generally seeing a software revenue increase anywhere between 4 and 8 to 10%, somewhere in there, depending on the products, of course, and and other variables. And so we have ways of, again, helping them ensure their customers are using software that they paid for, that they're not using software that they didn't pay for, and that they're using it in a way that what I refer to is the software behaves in a way that aligns to the way they bought it. When everything's calculated out, it turns into a revenue increase somewhere between 4 to 10%, somewhere in there. There's also the case of operational efficiency and customer satisfaction. About 3/4 of our new business is from businesses who have a growth strategy and are trying to drive revenue. But some of our customers come to us. HP is a really great example, where they just need to be more operationally efficient, right? Or they want to increase customer satisfaction. Those two things kind of go hand in hand a little bit. And about 25% of our new business kind of falls into those categories. And in those cases, the idea is we're measuring how lean the company is and how quickly they can get to market. And that usually drives our customers' business cases.
So a couple of the themes, a couple of the core topics of this event are how organizations are shifting towards adopting the subscription economy.
Yes.
Talking about the usage economy, really moving from selling on-prem to selling as a service. You've taken a lot of companies and worked with a lot of companies going through that process. What are the most common challenges that they typically face?
Well, there's certainly on the business side, right? There's a pricing and packaging challenge, right? How do I price my software in a recurring revenue model where, right, it's the right price? How do I pay my sales reps on a subscription model versus a perpetual model? In the perpetual model, you're recognizing all the revenue up front and so forth. So there's those types of things. But some of the challenges that we're seeing in some of the as a service and consumption-based models is around offering, say, a cloud component on a subscription coupled with an on-premise component on a subscription. And how do those two things work together? Selling them together is fine, right? Because you can put any marketing and pricing on it that you like. But how do you actually deliver it in a way that appears as though those two products are linked together? How do you deliver it in a way that where the company knows that, hey, if I bought 5 licenses, say, of this hybrid model, that I can only have 5 users, not 10 users, or not 50 users, and so forth. So how do we actually link those things together in a way that's clean, it's predictable, and has a good user experience, and it doesn't get messy?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that it's very easy, like you said, it's very easy from a marketing point of view or a sales point of view to describe these things. It's very difficult operationally when you come up with these hybrid models of on-prem and cloud. And let's talk a little bit, you got a lot of customers, you mentioned HP and others, that are hardware companies now selling in this hybrid mode. We're trying to shift entirely towards a recurring model. What are the unique challenges that the companies that are going from a physical product to this mix, what do they face?
Yes, so I mean, recurring revenue has its share of business challenges in general, right? Again, in terms of pricing, packaging, and so forth. But when you get into a recurring revenue model, your business has to change. It's not just about selling, say, software on a term basis that expires. It's about changing the way you're delivering value, and you have to deliver that value throughout the course of the subscription period. And but in terms of operationalizing that, right, some of the questions becomes, okay, what happens to my customer? What's my customer experience at the end of a subscription period? What actually happens, especially if you're delivering software that runs on premise? Okay, what actually happens? What is that renewal behavior, right? Does the customer, do I have a clean way of the customer, A, knowing they have to renew and being able to renew their software? And then how does my on-premise software know that it's been renewed? And what is that experience there, right? So it can be pretty bumpy if you haven't really thought through that. And then pay-per-use is always an interesting one, right? Because that has additional sets of business challenges up front. So if you sell a subscription, again, you move from perpetual to subscription, and you have to figure out, okay, how do I pay my sales reps on a subscription license versus perpetual? Okay, that's one challenge. But when I sell pay per use, right, or a metered model, I'm really selling on the future volume that's undefined, right? So how do I pay my sales team on something they haven't really sold yet? And so, and then, once you get through that, there's the notion of, okay, how do I get this usage data back from my on-premise customers environment in a way that's, that's aggregated, that's clean, that it's actionable, and so forth. So there's a lot of challenges in pay-per-use. I think that model is going to be probably coming to more maturity over the next few years. But I think, again, that offers some unique business challenges as well as operational challenges.
Yeah, not to mention the revenue forecasting.
Yeah, exactly. If you're a sales VP, how do you forecast on something that really hasn't happened yet? You signed a customer. I mean, a lot of the pay-per-use models that we see, we haven't really actually seen that many because companies realize that there's some gotchas when you actually, look close at it. But I know, all of our customers are interested in understanding what that usage is, but being able to monetize it is a real different ballgame at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think one of the themes, in telco terms, people talk about usage. It's really, they're talking about a post-paid model. And I think that's going to very quickly flip into a prepaid model.
Yes, with a countdown, like a capacity base.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I mean, the pay-per-use that we see generally has a subscription term right? Generally has some nominal fee, and then you pay, depending on what that volume is. But it's hard to predict.
Yeah, that's right. And then it's
Right.
hard to plan, behind that.
And most of our customers, I mean, their CFOs, they want cost certainty. So it's, they don't want to get into a situation where they don't know what they need to pay quarter to quarter.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
I think that's it's a maturing model. I think we're going to be seeing more of that over the next few years, but that's certainly not too far behind the subscription and other recurring revenue models.
Yeah, it's interesting because companies want to give their customers more options as a way to engage with their product and use it in an easy way. But the CFOs on both sides of the deal want predictability. I want to be able to predict and know and forecast what my sales commissions costs are going to be. I want to predict what it is going to be. And from the customer's point of view, I want to be able to predict what this is going to cost me.
Exactly. And then a usage-based scenario, I mean, there's a real good book called Consumption Economics. And it really talks about, if you can sell on that type of metric, on a consumer base or consumption based metric, right? Your cost, your barrier to entry is smaller as a software company because there's less risk. You're taking the risk as the vendor rather than the customer actually taking the risk up front.
Yeah. Let's talk about one of the questions that I'm sure you get all the time, which is this build versus buy question.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's not uncommon for mature organizations, engineering-led organizations to really push for custom development of an entitlement system to be built in-house. What's the argument for buying off the shelf versus building it yourself?
Sure. Now we end up being, is in the software delivery and licensing and protection space, right? We're part of the supply chain for, especially with a larger company. And when you start to look at all the elements within the supply chain, there's CPQ, there's CRM, there's ERP, right? And then when a company like that, they go to say, get a new CPQ system, some of them will actually build them themselves, but then they realize, why are we doing this ourselves? So just about all of our customers, certainly all of our major customers, have built their own entitlement management / licensing system. So it's not completely new to them. And they realize, I don't want to do this again. It doesn't scale. And scalability is really the thing that it comes down to, right? How does, because when you build a homegrown system like that, it's generally designed to solve the immediate pain points that you have, right? It's generally not designed to scale for the future. And, we have customers that build fairly nice systems that handle, say, perpetual licenses. And then they say, okay, how do we collect usage? Well, I can't do that, right? Or how do we do subscriptions? Well, I can't do that either. And so, it's really around scale and, taking that work away from the company so they can focus on their products and going commercial, so we just do it cleaner, better, faster, and we're constantly evolving our products so our customers get that value over time.
One of the things we mentioned up front is value selling, and I want to come back to that here.
Oh yeah.
You brought the concept of value selling to Thales.
That's right.
For those who don't know value selling, tell us a little bit about what it is, and then I want to get into, why did you do it, and what are some of the results that you've seen?
Sure. I'll actually start with a why, because that's kind of a fun story. So I moved into sales. I worked in our PS team for years, and then I moved into sales in 2017, and I started looking at why a lot of our deals were, they really weren't closing as much as we thought, because thought they would, because we've done all the right work, we've done workshops, we've done workflows, we've given them the beautiful PowerPoints. And at the end of the day, when I started looking at it, we were selling a product and the solution. We weren't helping them solve their problem. And so, so we took a different approach. And now what we do is I run a team that helps our customer really understand the problem that you're trying to solve before we even talk about the solution. And most of the time, you know, the problem our customers are solving is generally bigger than they think it is, right? So it has legs, involves your sales teams, you know, involves your support teams, involves your marketing teams, involves, you know, certainly operation team and IT and so forth. And what we do is we go in and we really try to understand what is the business problem that you're trying to solve, right? Not, again, it's not your licensing problem. The licensing problem is part of a larger problem. So for example, we have customers, again, that want to sell on a recurring revenue model, right? So the business problem is growth. Your business problem is revenue generation and getting to that recurring model. The licensing thing is a symptom of the problem. So we really try to help the customer understand the difference between those things and understand how the licensing problem relates to their larger problem and help them put some numbers on it so that when our customer, our champion and so forth is going to their CFO to get approval to move forward this project, they have the answers. They understand what's going to happen to our business once we solve this problem, right? And anyone who knows me has heard me say this 1,000 times. It's like, are we solving $100 problem or $100 million problem? And it's really been enlightening for our customers. And it's been very accepting for our customers because that has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with their problem and what happens to their business once their problem is solved, not necessarily once their problem is solved by us. And so we really focus on the problem and putting the customer's kind of hands around the problem, and then also understanding, you know, okay, moving forward, what are the things that are going to make you successful, and what are the KPIs that, you know, we can help you measure moving forward. So it's been enlightening, to say the least, and it's really been impactful to our customers and to our sales guys.
Yeah, and it's certainly, we see a real difference in the broader monetization projects where organizations are able to articulate and communicate clearly across the organization what the underlying business value is of the effort. And it's not about a product, it's not about a project per se, it's about getting everyone on the same page. And I think it's a real struggle for a lot of companies to get language that also encapsulates the financial value and the business values, right, that project or that effort is trying to achieve.
Yeah, and it's made our sales teams, not only our sales teams, but our professional services teams and our support teams and everything kind of look at the problem differently, and it's helped our customers look at the problem differently. I'll give you an example. I was meeting with a VP of product management out in the Bay Area. I know this is late last year. And most of our customers, they tend to have the same problems, right? They want to do X, Y, Z. And so they went through the 3 or 4 things they're trying to do. And I asked the guy, okay, if I waved the magic wand and I solved all these problems for you tomorrow, how does your business change? What is the impact that you have on your business? And he looked at me and he's like, I need to answer that, don't I? I said, yeah, you're going to have to do that because your CFO is going to want the answers to that. And he's like, okay, yeah, I understand. And so we tend to have this, what we call the business track conversations, kind of in parallel with the solution track, because our customers need both of them, right? You really need to understand, you know, why you're solving this problem before you get into how you're going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, we are unfortunately out of time, but Dave, great. I really want to thank you. This is a great conversation. There's more information, I'm sure, available at the Thales booth. You're going to be around for the networking, and yes, certainly reach out. Dave's you're a great resource on this topic.
Thank you.
So thanks very much.
Yeah, you guys are great. I appreciate the invitation.
Great, thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thanks.